heavy barbell hip thrust. My most used and loved rep range is typically staying around 6 to 10 reps for a good mix of strength and hypertrophy. Here I'm showing my favorite rep scheme, 10-8-6, and I do prefer using a constant tension method here, as you see, rather than my training when I am focusing on both strength and hypertrophy. I do like to keep the tension on my glutes as much as I can throughout the set. Number 2 is another variation of thrust, and that is single leg landmine thrust. I have really fallen in love with single leg thrust variations over the years because of the results I have seen. And Number 3 is reverse lunges. Any variation, to be honest, is great, but my personal favorites that I use the most are either deficit or standard Smith machine reverse lunges, and then deficit dumbbell reverse lunges. The deficit is created by the plate I am on, so I am able to go lower and achieve a further stretch in my working glute at the bottom of the movement. Now, typically with the Smith machine variation, I love for lower rep ranges, usually 6 to 8, and then with the dumbbell variation, I love for higher reps. Now, y'all know lunges are a tricky movement for me because of my previous knee injuries, so the Smith machine variation allows me to load as heavy as I need for lower rep ranges without the risk of instability. And then with the dumbbell deficit reverse lunges, as you see here, I will also lightly hold on to something with one hand and then the weight with the other, and I'll do one side at a time. Just make sure that if you are going to use a stability hold, that you do not use it at all to pull you up or do any of the work for you. Number 4 is glute bias Bulgarian split squats. So to make these more glute bias, you will want to have a wider stride so that as you go down, your front shin is able to stay vertical. You also want to have a slight torso lean forward, and as you go down, you want to think sitting back into that working glute rather than just moving up and down. Just like with the deficit dumbbell reverse lunges, I also use a light hold here as well. Again, lightly holding, not pulling up at all. So I really like to challenge myself with loads on this movement, and will typically aim for 8 to 12 reps depending on the goal and how heavy I end up going. Number 5 is straddle lifts. I love me some straddle lifts. So think of this movement like a mix between a squat and a hinge. You're hinging those hips back as you squat down with the weight. Now, depending on your mobility, you will want to elevate yourself accordingly and then either hold onto a dumbbell or a kettlebell from below while performing the exercise. You want to be high enough so that when you reach the bottom with the weight, it's still off the ground so that you don't lose any of that tension you've built up in your glutes at the bottom of the movement. This lift has been a staple in my glute training for years and probably always will remain in my top 10 because I just love it that much. I also love to add pauses and pulses. You can get pretty creative with this exercise, but I just absolutely love it for the glutes. Number 6 is RDLs, more specifically dumbbell RDLs. I just find using dumbbells to give me the best contact while focusing on that stretch and really feeling it where I want to be. I usually like an 8 to 12 rep range depending on the variation and the overall workout, and I love to either use a standard dumbbell RDL or implement an extra quarter rep at the bottom where the glutes are under the greatest amount of tension in the exercise. Now, if you're somebody who struggles to feel your glutes in an RDL, it is most likely because your form is favoring your hamstrings over your glutes. So what you want to do is as you begin to drive your hips back and travel down with the weight, I want you to allow for a bit more knee bend. This will help decrease the hamstrings while increasing the amount of glutes because by having a greater knee bend, it allows you to achieve a greater stretch in your glutes as you drive back. If you perform a stiff knee RDL and then perform a rep how I just explained, your mind will be blown at the difference in feeling your glutes working. So once you achieve that full trouble stretching your glute by pushing your hips back as far as you can, think of contracting or squeezing your glutes hard to help drive you out of that hole back into position, and that is how you perform a glute bias RDL. Definitely still getting the hamstrings here, don't get me wrong, but it'll just help you feel your glutes and get a little bit more glutes out of the movement. Now, number 7 here is going to look a bit different than you may be used to, and that is a glute bias back extension. My gym used to have the